Welcome to Lesson 2 of Intro to the Classics. In this lesson, we'll be learning about ancient pandemics. Throughout history, there have been numerous pandemics that have affected the development of civilizations, people, and the world as we know it. The word pandemic is derived from the Greek words pan, meaning all, and demos, meaning people. It differs from an epidemic in that an epidemic is limited to a certain group of people or area, whereas a pandemic affects all people. In the 21st century, some of the ways we limit the spread of disease in a pandemic is by wearing face masks, washing our hands, and social distancing. In the ancient classical world, hygiene was very important, but without the concept of germs, which was discovered hundreds of years later, civilizations did not understand how to properly deal with diseases. A lack of awareness of germs combined with crowded cities and traveling armies meant that pandemics were far more commonplace in ancient times than today, so much so that many of them shaped the world as we know it. The first one we are going to talk about is the Plague of Athens. In Athens, around the year 430 BC, a violent epidemic occurred. A plague of typhoid fever spread rapidly throughout Africa and soon reached Greece. These days, we have a vaccine for typhoid, and even if we do catch it, it is treatable with antibiotics. But thousands of years ago, it demolished the population of Athens and killed upwards of a third of the population. It was a major factor in the Spartans' defeat of the Athenians in the Peloponnesian War. This disease greatly affected history because the world may have turned out very differently if Athens had won the war. The Antonine Plague, an outbreak of a smallpox-like disease in Rome around the year 165 BC. It wiped out a quarter of those who contracted the disease, about 5 million people in total. The disease killed 2 Roman emperors and, like the Plague of Athens, weakened their army. There is still no cure for smallpox, but thankfully we have a vaccine. The Plague of Justinian. One of the most deadly pandemics in history began around 541 AD. The disease was the same disease as the one attributed to the Black Death in the Middle Ages. Justinian was the emperor of Rome during the time it began, hence its name. It killed roughly 100 million people throughout Europe. Today, like with typhoid, we can easily cure this disease with antibiotics because it is a bacterial infection. So how did they treat disease in ancient times? Bloodletting. Egypt first introduced the practice of bloodletting, which became a common practice in Greek and Roman society and continued around the world up until the 1800s. Bloodletting is the practice of cutting a vein and quite literally letting the blood drain. It was believed that if people weren't feeling well, their blood concentration was too high, disrupting the balance in their body. Mercury. Another method of treatment was the use of mercury in medicine. Although it is a toxic element, the ancient Greeks and Persians thought that it was not only a way to cure sickness, but a way for the patients to gain eternal life. Quarantine. The ancients did understand that disease was spread person to person, so they did usually quarantine sick people in their houses. But without basic hygiene and hand washing, the disease soon spread to family members and caregivers, who then left the house and spread it to others. Today, in the scale of human life, we have only very recently discovered the existence of germs and therefore learned to contain these diseases as best we can. A common misconception is that our advanced society, with the scientific and medical knowledge that we now have, will be able to contain and or quickly eliminate any plague-like disease. Although we do have some modern commodities and antibiotics, viruses, such as the coronavirus, can still sometimes spread at a rapid pace. And every now and then, pandemics do occur. We are lucky today that we do have the ability to communicate and organize on a global level, a privilege ancient Rome and Greece were without. We have the tools today to overcome such diseases, and we must use them to our advantage. The R naught is the number of people on average each sick person infects in a pandemic. Here is a thought experiment. A lake has a toxic lily pad problem. To begin with, there is only one lily pad. The next day, there were two. The next day, there are four. Eventually, on day 32, the lake is completely covered in lily pads. On what day would the lake have been only half covered in lily pads? Day 31 is the answer. Join us next time for a look at classical gods. Thanks.